What's up, guys? This is In the Corner with Destiny McCubbin, and today I've got the one and only Jeff Meyer in the studio with me. He is the man behind Tuff-N-Uff whilst carrying out Barry Meyer's legacy. What's up, Jeff? How are we doing?
I'm good. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm super excited. You've been a pillar in the fight game. You were an OG. You've seen a lot. So I definitely want to dive into everything, the journey, your journey, the fighters, all of it. So let's get after it.
Awesome. I'm excited. I get a little emotional sometimes when talking about my brother. Thanks for acknowledging him. None of this would be possible without him.
And I 100% know that. And I definitely don't want to, make you too emotional. But I also want you to know that I also have so much love for your brother because he's opened this show for us all. So yeah, I wanted to definitely bring him up.
Thanks. I generally get through it really fast, and I think it's weird to have the ability to make people cry and then laugh because there's sad parts of the story, but there's also really awesome and funny and exciting parts. So
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me. We'll get through this little emotional period.
Of course, yeah. No, you take your time. I love it, and I'm here
good.
for it. This is real and raw. So you be exactly how you feel, okay?
Thank you.
Let's talk Tuff-N-Uff. You've been around about 2 decades now, right?
3 decades.
3 decades.
94, June 18th, 94.
That was the year before I was born.
I mean, not to feel too old or something, but you can zoom in on these gray hairs for sure.
Hey, you're doing great, man. What do you think has been the key to the longevity and success, especially on the AMI scene?
Thanks. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm learning as I go every day, right? But I have to think that the reason why Tuff-N-Uff has sustained for so long and has built up a name is by, embracing a fighter-first mentality. And also a fan first. Like, we're at the end of the day, my brother and I are such huge fans of the sport, been watching it since the very first one. Okay, we can go into some of my early days. Yeah, the very first UFC, my brother called me. I was at school in Arizona. He's like, hey, I saw this ad for a Ultimate Fighting Championship, and nobody knew whether it was going to be fake or real, WWE style stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I was, like I said, in Arizona. He was in Chicago. We were watching live over the phone together, the very first fight, Taylor Tooley versus Gerard Gordeau, and Gerard Gordeau knocked his tooth out, right, in the first round, in the first minute of the thing. So we knew it was real, and we were instantly hooked. And my brother was quoted as saying it was love at first fight, So we've always been kind of as I said, just fans of the sport, and taking the mindset of what would a fan want to see. And my brother was admittedly a fighter. I'm not, okay? We've been in a million fights, me against him, and a couple fights of me and him against other people. And he was a really, really tough guy. One of the toughest I've ever known, okay? And so, he was really, I think, instrumental in making sure that the fighters were the most important focus of Tuff-N-Uff because, let's face it, without good fighters, Tuff-N-Uff is nothing. You know what I mean? So I thanks for the question. I think that the honest answer is trying to look at the business from a fighter's perspective and a fan's perspective, maybe is what's helped us sustain for so long.
I absolutely love that answer, and I think it's 100% accurate because a lot of promotions don't see that. Promoters actually kind of suck. Coming up in the game and stuff, promoters kind of suck. They don't care about fighters. They care about themselves and their money. But that could be a very 100% accurate reason as to why you are seeing 30 years. You're seeing Tuff-N-Uff 145 after barely being on the pro scene for just a couple of years. How long now?
Well, in March of 22 is when we came back from COVID. So
yeah, 3 years. 3 years. So that's not a long time, and you came this far just being an amateur show, So what, 27, 26 years of being an amateur show? And that is because you have taken care of your fighters and you've cared about your fighters, So yes, I think it's a great answer.
Thanks. I also got to please give credit to the matchmaking team. Gokor, Richie, Carter, I think do such a great job of finding awesome talent, whether it be local, within the region. We've had kids coming from out of the country even to fight for us, and I have to give credit to them. I think they're doing awesome.
Oh, 1,000%. The matchmaking, especially nowadays, these days, I mean, it's always been great, but just the game's evolved a lot, obviously, right? And the matchmaking now is like so close. Sometimes it's hard to score a fight. I feel bad for these judges.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're bad fights either. They're freaking barn burners, you know?
We hope every fight obviously is an amazing one. And,
Yeah.
you know, some are better than others, but I'm very proud of the guys in the matchmaking department.
But you see some promotions kind of taking care of their you know, their A fighters, their A-side fighters, which is fine. That's kind of how the game goes, whatever. But you guys are very, like, and I think that's why Tuff-N-Uff is a feeder in the bridge to the UFC, because it's all good, high-level fighters. And I'm not talking just professionals, amateurs as well.
We have a little saying like, no more easy fights at Tuff-N-Uff.
Yeah.
You know, guys want to build their record. We get it, but that's not what we're about. It's not going to help a fighter to get a bunch of easy layup cans or whatever.
No.
You know, they need to test themselves and prove they're ready.
Especially being here at Tuff-N-Uff, where, again, the feeder, the bridge to the UFC, we're not here. My good friend said this the other day, and I loved it. We ain't petting puppies.
You're right. Exactly.
You know?
You're more like trying to tame the lion.
Exactly. But honestly, like, we're talking now, but even when I was competing, you know, 4 years ago, it was still tough fights. I never had an easy fight. Like, it was still tough fights. You knew if you're fine for Tuff-N-Uff, you were getting in there with some of the best amateurs in the game. And I'm blessed to say that I've shared cages with girls who are now fighting in bigger promotions, fighting for you guys, you know? So it's amazing. Yeah.
Thanks. It's awesome to, you know, come full circle to having, you know, you fight for us, and now I'm in your podcast studio.
Now you're my podcast. I'm reporting for you,
Yes.
you know, working for Tuff-N-Uff. It's so amazing. It's I love it. And it's funny because people are always like, you're Tuff-N-Uff, you're like, you know, so I love that, like, my face and presence kind of represents Tuff-N-Uff now, in a sense. Like, that means so much to me. I love it.
Well, we're very proud of you, and thanks for representing us so well.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much. So like I said before, you've been doing this, you know, for a long time. You've seen this game evolve and grow. Tell me, like, how you've seen it, or what you feel as far as the amateurs then and now.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's almost unrecognizable, the difference, right?
Right.
I was just talking to some people yesterday about this topic, and I think it's like the amateurs at Tuff-N-Uff now, especially in general, even across the country, you've seen that the sport evolve so much. The level of talent on our amateur undercards, you know, is somewhat sometimes almost like impossible to tell the difference between the pros and the Emmys. And I would put up, you know, some of our Emmys against some pros in maybe some other regions or something, because, you know, there's a lot of talent here. Obviously, the fight capital of the world, we got the mega massive gyms, Extreme Couture, Syndicate, One Kick. You know, I should go on and list all the gym owners out here.
Top three for sure.
But that's a good question. And I think that, you know, it's also important to note, like we were talking a little before we sat down, all the people that you see at a Tuff-N-Uff in the cage, around the cage, you know, we have the biggest and best UFC referees through the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chris Tione and Mark Smith. You know, they started their very first time ever refereeing was for Tuff-N-Uff when we were doing amateurs at the Orleans.
Wow.
So now, you know, coming full circle to see how much they've grown and risen to the ranks of, you know, being the top guys over there for many big pay-per-views and UFC events. You know, the viewer that's in like whatever, you know, Kansas or something that's watching Tuff-N-Uff, maybe never seen us before. You know, they're watching it on TV or whatever smart device. They're watching UFC Fight Pass, of course. They're seeing like, oh, okay, wait a second, I get it. That's the same referee, the same judges. Like, it's almost, you know, I feel as if a mini UFC, if you will, or something like that.
Totally. That's how I feel and see Tuff-N-Uff. I mean, even back in the day, like when I got the call for Tuff-N-Uff, it was like, wow, Tuff-N-Uff, you know? But like now working for Tuff-N-Uff, like I feel like that, it's the dream, you know, is to one day be working in the UFC. So I just feel like in such a perfect place to for this practice. It was so funny. The last show that we did when I was making a video for just to promote the weigh-ins and stuff, I almost said, this is destiny over at for UFC. I almost said UFC because it just feels like it, you know? It's so legit, just like we're so close. We're
trying so hard to create that, like, as best we can. I think that UFC is obviously the, you know, model everyone wants to follow. And, you know, I feel that's an honor to hear you say that you actually said you were at the UFC and maybe felt that way.
Yeah. And like, honestly, like, you said yes, everybody wants to model them, but I feel like Tuff-N-Uff, like even when you're talking about like like LFA, Fury, they're their own promotions, and like I feel like they're great too, you know, but I feel like they're their very own brand. Whereas to Tuff-N-Uff, it really does remind me of a mini UFC, you know, like,
I mean, we're trying our hardest to make it not only, you know, feel like a incredible event and what an experience for the value of our ticket prices, but, you know, we want to be the springboard or pathway for fighters. Like when you were fighting as an amateur, we weren't doing pros. You had to go fight everywhere else to get your pro record up to even be looked at by the UFC.
Yep.
Now our goal is to provide this straight path, you know, from the Emmy ranks to the pros through Tuff-N-Uff.
That was going to be a question of mine, is how does it feel to, one, not only for so long, yeah, you said you had to go and start your amateur career and then go build a pro career, but still you had amateurs that fought for you for a long time that did still go to the UFC before you even had a long time longevity in the professional scene. Juan Kamaka, right?
Ronda Rousey's another example.
Exactly, Ronda Rousey. Got the chills a little bit just talking about this. But even then, you had, you know, the amateurs creating that. But now, being on the professional scene, you are really creating the bridge for these athletes to go from you to the UFC. You're feeding these athletes to the UFC. So how does that feel for you?
Huge honor and compliment. I think, again, I got to give credit to the matchmakers. They do such a great job of finding these talented kids. Shouldn't call them kids, you know, some of them are adults, but relative to me with my gray hair, you know, but it's like we were talking a little before about Kai Kamaka, you know, a guy that's fought in the PFL and ends up posting on Instagram that he wanted to get out of his PFL contract and then wants to fight for us. What a huge honor. And, you know, I feel like that makes it all kind of worth it, or makes me realize that we are doing the right thing. And, you know, hopefully continuing my brother's legacy of being fighter first. And,
absolutely.
You know, I find it to be awesome, and you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, we have plans to keep it growing and growing, and our goal is hopefully to, you know, keep churning out more and more UFC fighters that hopefully get that call, like Eric McConaughey. You know, he was called up 24 hours before our weigh-in to go fight. So, like, we lost our main event, but at the same time, so proud of him.
But you can't be mad.
You know, happy to see him go up the ranks to the big show.
Yes. And I think that, you know, Kai Kamaka saying that shows you exactly like what I had said, is that you guys are right below the UFC and you are the feeder. Like, yeah, I don't want to be PFL. I want to go to Tuff-N-Uff because that's what's going to get me where I want to go, basically, you know?
Well, I think it's known in the world, if you're serious about the sport. Luckily, Tuff-N-Uff is fortunate to be in the backyard of the UFC, right?
Right.
So Sean Shelby's almost at every single event.
Exactly.
I think he's missed 2 or 3 events in the 3 years since we've been back from COVID.
Which is amazing, because it's like almost like it's like a little scout night for the UFC too.
I agree. I mean, I think they use it as such. You know, not only do they love to come and look for talent, but they're also there to have fun and watch fights without working.
Without pressure.
You know what I mean?
High level fights as well.
And high-level people. I mean, we've had the biggest of the big at UFC.
Yeah. Stars are
Dana,
out.
Hunter, all these huge-name fighters that come to our fights.
In San Diego, I seen you guys had a lot of stars out. You had Hill there. I'm so sorry, I'm having a blank on her name right now.
Angela Hill, Cheeto Vera,
Cheeto Vera.
Luke Rockhold.
Yes,
it was awesome.
That's so cool, and they're all California based, which is what makes it so amazing that you guys are now traveling. San Diego might be a second home base for Tuff-N-Uff, because you know the fighters that are based out of that area are going to come show face. Whereas to here, obviously being the fight capital of the world, and we have Syndicate MMA and Extreme Couture, we have a lot of UFC fighters here, the Performance Institute. So we see a lot of the fans, the stars a lot of the time, but not those stars.
Yeah, this is a new market. It's exciting. I don't know if you know, I moved from San Diego to Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Barry and I moved from there to start Tuff-N-Uff. And I remember, you know, thinking like, are we nuts? Like leaving, we were in San Diego. I worked for him in his office, and it was overlooking the ocean and like beautiful, perfect weather. You know,
I love San Diego.
I love it too.
My favorite place.
I'm so excited to be able to go back there. I've been gone for so long. I don't feel like I don't know anybody there anymore. You know, it's been over 10 years since we moved, but I'm really proud to tell you that it was a cool experience for me, because I invited like my brother's best friends that are still in San Diego.
Amazing.
My brother's boss was there.
Okay.
And it just made me feel so proud to be able to host these guys And they had such positive compliments to say and stuff about like they were so proud of Tuff-N-Uff and happy to see it back in San Diego. So
amazing. It's amazing. And it is such a moment to be proud of. And I hope that you are, because you guys have been Las Vegas based for a long time and you've came very far just doing that, you know, but it says a lot about the promotion and the brand as to where it is that you're now traveling. Let's talk about San Diego. That was Tuff-N-Uff 144, just took place a couple weeks ago.
May 22nd.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I was so scared. It was a Thursday night. You know, typically we do Fridays. Obviously, Saturday's the best day, but UFC's almost every Saturday.
Yes.
You know, so
yes.
being on a Thursday, I was like so nervous. Are we going to have any butts and seats? You know what I mean? And I maybe freaked out a little bit too much and went overboard with the comps. But I'm happy to tell you that we comped the military and first responders.
Oh, amazing.
So, you know, we like to do, when we do comps, we like to give it to those that deserve it. Firefighters, whatever, cops, military, people that are putting their life on the line to protect us.
Right.
You know, so I went a little overboard, but it was awesome. In fact, on this website we use called VetTix, you can click and then see like members of VetTix that went to our event, and they post like, oh, this was awesome. Thank you to VetTix and blah, 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 and Tuff-N-Uff. And they had really great feedback. So for me, I feel, you know, like really proud when I read that kind of stuff. Because,
yeah, of course.
you know, as you can imagine, whatever the events, they say Murphy's Law, right? Like anything could happen. Anything could go wrong. And we've probably had it all happen over the years. But luckily that one came off with almost without a hitch, you know, with the exception of the warm-up area being like a, what do you call it, sardine can or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did hear about that a little bit. But you know what? Trial and error.
Yes,
First
I promise fighters we will do better. We already have some plans to put tents outside, and you won't be like rolling around on top of each other warming up.
Amazing. I can't wait to see it grow. It's just going to get better and better. And you already had a good sellout showing, but that's also going to get better. And then you talk about doing too many comps, but that's okay for the first time, because it makes people feel good that you took care of them. So they're going to want to take care of you to keep showing out for you, you know? So
and it builds on people that have never been to an event. Believe this or not, Destiny, I got an email from this dude who's like, the subject line was 144 was awesome. And then, you know, I kind of didn't really even like stop and pay too much attention to that email when it came in, got back to it later after getting some other stuff done. Right. And the guy's like, hey, just wanted to say, can I read it to you guys?
Yes, please do.
Let me see.
I'd love to hear it.
I thought it was really cool email to receive, and I don't want to get the verbiage wrong. So let me see. How do you find an email nowadays with so many darn emails? I'll search for the person.
Do you remember the name?
Yes, I here it is. Okay, I found it. So the subject line was 144 dash amazing card. Okay. Jeff, I just wanted to say how awesome 144 was. I had some buddies in town from the UK, and that was our first MMA event that either of us had ever been to, and it couldn't have been better. You guys did a hell of a job with everything, man. Super pumped that you guys are coming back again, and we'll definitely be hitting it again. I was like, what? So I replied to the guy, hey, thanks, you know, glad you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for the nice compliments. Can you please remind me where we know each other from? Because I didn't know who, you know, if he was just a friend telling me this or something. And then this last one I'll read to you. He goes, hey, Jeff, thanks for sorry for the confusion. We don't know each other. I'm just a new fan. I'd never heard of the promotion before going to the fights and was Googling to learn more and saw that you run the show. Just wanted to give my regards on a great card. You know, those kinds of, like, some dude taking his time to go out and find me, you know, I was really...
Find you and reach out, and yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, I'm a super huge geek, so I Googled the dude, found his LinkedIn, and he's like some really smart, like, investor guy or something like this. And so I was like, wow.
That's a good connect to have.
Yeah, totally. I think he's in, like, software... mergers and acquisitions or something like that. But, you know, geek to geek, I was like so proud to read that compliment.
Yeah, that's amazing. But you probably made his day for reaching back out. You know, he went like, oh, I'm just going to send this. Like because it's on the outside world, and even to me, like, you're kind of famous, you know? And so he's probably like, I'm going to send this, and he's probably going to not even see it. So the fact that you didn't only read it, but you got back to him, it probably made his day.
Well, he's going to get another email from me, to be honest with you. I kind of was thinking about it. I forgot to ask him, like, the most obvious question, hey, can you please tell me how you even found out about it? Like, what brought you? So, cause we got to try to figure out what our marketing is working, what's not. So he will be getting another email from me. Hey, sorry, I forgot to ask you this. But how'd you end up finding about us in the first place?
Right. No, I love that. That's a good idea too. Yeah.
Look, it's
you got to know now that you got a new market.
Look, I'm a promoter. They say, so my job is to promote. Okay, so like I struggle to sell tickets just like any other promoter does, and we learn and we try different things and new things. I'm very curious how he ended up finding out about it, but we cast a wide net, if you will, and it's like a lot of times I say, I'm no marketing maven by any means, right? But I feel like, well, we got to try stuff and see if it works, and almost am under the mindset like don't stop anything we're doing and only add to it, because all the people like that see our billboards, then maybe they see an ad on like this streaming app. I found this pretty cool company that helps you advertise during live sports and other sporting content on apps and like MLB.com, et cetera, like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you say, well, this guy bought a ticket from this exact ad? I feel as if they've got to see everything, some kind of rule in marketing. You got to see something 7 times or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I've always said the majority of our fighters, or our tickets are, I think, purchased by friends and family of the fighters. But I can't just rely on the fighters and, hope that I got to support them.
Absolutely.
So we do like 38 digital billboards in town and, all the TV, radio, whatever we're doing out there is just to kind of support and amplify the message. But, I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly how this dude found us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a great question and good thing to know. That way okay, this is working. Because sometimes you have, like you said, you're doing this and that, so many different avenues of promotion, but not all of them are working, I'm sure,
I guess that's my job, is to try to figure out how to promote this stuff,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you're doing a great job. 30 years in the game. Tuff-N-Uff has obviously seen a little bit of downfalls, as with any company, especially during COVID. So how's it been, that you guys have actually finally started getting some good investors and things like that?
Oh, thanks for asking. So huge shout out and credit to Justin Bernard, who I think
my mentor. That's our guy. Voice. Shout out to Justin.
We love that dude. And
yes.
He's one of my best friends, and he's been the, let's call it brains behind Tuff-N-Uff.
Absolutely.
I think he's the visionary. He's always been there. So like, to answer your question, during the pandemic, we had nothing to do, right? We had nothing going on.
Yeah.
We were shut down for 2 years. So Justin and I would talk almost daily and trying to figure out, how do we come out of this thing and can we find investors? That's when we kind of started looking in formulating a plan for investors. But I think to answer your question, the reason why, so I'll tell you the story.
Okay.
I was on my way. Wait, no, this comes later in the story. Sorry. I got a call saying, Jeff, come to Chicago. I got some people from a very close, trusted family friend who's also a big-time investor guy. And he says, come to Chicago. I got some people for you to meet. I suck at presentations. I really do. I mean, I stumble in like Photoshop and whatever you call like, Microsoft slides thing, whatever that is, PowerPoint, whatever. So, but I took the time. I had printed some stuff on my color printer and was very prepared for this meeting, okay? So I went to Chicago. I actually stopped at the UFC headquarters and purchased some like those Bad Birdie golf shirts because I knew I was supposed to meet these dudes at a country club in Chicago. So I'm like, okay, I'll bring them some golf stuff.
Fancy.
So I come in, I leave this stuff down there. And as I said, I feel like I suck at presentations. But I think I did well enough in preparing. And I told them the true story that Tuff-N-Uff's just been around for so long. We've built up such an incredible name and so many current UFC fighters that if we were able to, have a little bit of funding, then we could expand and really increase the business, right?
Right.
So from Chicago, I went to Florida to go visit some friends. I'm like, well, wait, I'm already halfway across the country. Let me continue, go down to Florida and just, hang out for a couple days on the beach. So anyway, I'm getting on the plane and I sit down next to some girl and I get a call from the investor. He's like, you did it. They were so impressed. And I'm so proud of you. And I know I can't believe it either. So that's what happened. And, without giving away too much intel or whatever, I'm very proud to tell you that we've got some strategic investors that are not just throwing money at us, that are actually helping to organize the business and look at the future and plan and prepare for the massive growth that we think we can accomplish.
Absolutely. That's amazing. What more can you ask for? It makes me so happy that people see what we see.
Well, how about what we built? You included. You were part of it. Every fighter that put their blood, sweat, and tears, risked your life to entertain people. Okay? I have to say that, a lot of Tuff-N-Uff was built just from, the fighters being so awesome. And it's really nice to hear people like you even give us compliments, as I say, we try, we learn, and to hear people speak favorably about us really does, feel good and makes me think that all the heartache and headache and sometimes walking away from an event with my tail between my legs and just wanted to go home and sleep and skip the after party.
Right.
What I mean?
It's an exhausting day.
So it does feel good and make it feel sometimes like it's all worth it. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. But no, you just like to see good people win. And like I said before, and like you said, fighters first. You guys have always made the fighters feel good, even in amateurs. Let's talk Thomas and Mac, Pack the Mac.
Those were awesome.
That was my first time ever competing for you guys. Didn't even know what Pack the Mac was, and I walk out the tunnel.
Wait, you fought Nadine? Or no?
No, that was my second Pack the Mac.
Helen?
I fought Helen at the Randy Couture one. I fought some girl, God, I can't remember her name now, Kara or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Slavinsky, the little one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a 115. She was good too, tough girl.
What was your experience? I mean, in that, if I remember correctly, we had a lot of people in there that year.
Yeah, that was about 14,000 people that year. Yeah, and I had no idea what it was. All I knew is that, I remember we got the call, it was 4 weeks out, a little short notice, and I was kind of dealing with a minor injury, but my coach was like, this is Tuff-N-Uff. We don't say no to Tuff-N-Uff. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Who was your coach back then?
Back then is Dave Castillo out of Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
MMA Gold, I think?
Garage.
Garage. Yeah,
yep.
Such great guys.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to remember the people we've worked with.
That's so cool. Yeah. But, and I was like, okay, shit, let's do it. Didn't know what Pack the Mac was. I literally, till I walked out of the tunnel, did I know. I walked out and it was just what is going on?
Can I tell you a little story about that, please?
Yes, please.
I think your viewers and listeners might like to hear an interesting tidbit about that you might never hear otherwise.
Okay.
So we were sitting with the executive team at the Thomas and Mack and the Cox Pavilion, which is the one right next to it, right? And we're going over the event that we just had over there, and the meeting was kind of wrapping up, and they're like, you got anything else? And it just hit me that now is the time to bring this up. I said, guys, I want to talk to you about an idea that Barry had, which was to do a free event. Okay, and you remember Tanya Evinger?
Yes,
okay.
I do.
So I was walking down the hallway with her one night after a Tuff-N-Uff at New Orleans, and I had my arm around her shoulder. I've known her forever, and she was so nice to me after Barry passed. She was giving me some advice about these shows she does in Missouri.
Okay.
She's like, find these venues that'll allow you to go in there if it's generally not always event and sold out. Maybe they'd be open to doing this concept where you partner up and you go in there and you offer all the tickets for free and you ask them to share in the revenue of the, other ancillary opportunities, parking, food and beverage, sponsorship, etc.
Yeah.
So I told them this, and they were all kind of, scratching their head, and they said, why? Tell us why we should do it. I said, well, to honor my brother, okay? And they said, let's do it. They loved Barry. Sorry.
It's okay.
He was a good dude, and everybody that worked with him knew that. And I think the guys at Thomas and Mack, I'll just drop a couple names like Mike and Kenny. They were so supportive, and like I said, they loved Barry, so they gave us that shot.
That's amazing.
And we didn't know what it was going to do, right? I remember the first year we did the Pack the Mac. I'm up there with Mike and Kenny, the two main top dudes there, right? And AJ, the box office manager. And we're looking off they have this thing where I guess they stand up at the top of the escalators, where you go up. and they're like looking out at the Tropicana, right? And this was right when the doors were opening, so the massive amounts of cars were coming in. So I just happened to, I don't know, stumble up there at that time when they were there, right? I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, look, we got traffic backed up past the 15. They were over a mile backed up to turn into our event.
Oh my! So all the way up to Trop?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's a good amount. You're passing MGM.
You're passing the strip just to come to our event. So it's like, wow, okay, this is working.
It was really cool. It was such a cool event because like it was free and it was summer. It was summertime, so kids are out. Like I remember coming. It was like, honestly, that show changed my life. It did. I don't know if you know this, but now I'm getting emotional, but that show changed my life because one, just coming out to something like that was amazing as an amateur fighter. And then like all the kids coming up asking for an autograph. But that's the night that I met Cheyenne Vlismas, and her and I made a relationship and stayed in touch. And months later, I came down here to train with her. And after that weekend of training with her, 28 days later, I moved here on a whim. Nice. Because I knew I needed to be here.
The warrior princess. I love her.
Oh, gosh. Miss her, right?
Wait, she was at that time, she was fighting, and her boyfriend was also, I think, weren't they like on the same card?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Way back then, Tony, I can't remember his last name.
I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, brother. But
Me either. I don't even know if he still fights. But yeah. And I don't remember if he was going for the title, but was that the night she won the title? I think so. I can't remember.
Can't remember either. We'll have to resort to AI, Google, ChatGPT can help us.
But yeah, so that event changed my life. But it was just so cool being a young amateur and like having the little kids come up asking for an autograph and that was one hell of a moment. Do you think you guys will bring that back? Because I know you're not really doing it anymore. Do you think you'll ever bring back?
I'd like to,
or maybe even not free, but like I don't know, like something. Just packing the Mac would be cool.
I'd love to.
That would bring back some nostalgic memories.
I don't know though if it's like I've thought about, $5, $10 tickets or something, right?
Exactly.
Here's the problem. I'm sorry to tell you, when you do that, I found that we've even done $10 tickets like just to try on other events, and it doesn't seem to move the needle. I'm sorry to say, I feel like if it's free, that's when you get, and as an example, I'll tell you, when we were back before like our UFC Fight Pass, huge, awesome partner deal with UFC Fight Pass, we were streaming our stuff on every streaming platform. Back then it was Go Fight Live, you stream, we stream, you all stream for I stream. You know what I mean? I don't know, whatever the different ones were out there, we were on them. And we were charging, I don't know, $19.99 or something for a pay-per-view. The best we did was like 200 streams, right?
Okay.
Then I was like, forget it, just put it on for free. And we did YouTube, and then we did Facebook when Facebook was getting real big into the live video stuff. And we did like 380,000 live views on Facebook. I'm like, oh my God, look at the difference between paid and free. You know what I'm saying? So I've thought about maybe trying to do like a free thing or, very cheap option, but I'm more of the mindset that if we can do some fun community service stuff, like you remember one year we had like if you bring a can of food, you get in free.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
like
a
to
good idea.
think about something like that.
Totally, I love that.
I'd like to get back into something like that. Was a really cool, and that first year I'm reminded of a video that it's like on my personal Facebook, so I don't know if anyone listening will be able to find it, but I can set it to public and you can look. But it's an interesting video that's like about 8 minutes long during the intermission, right? And it must, many sporting events, like over time, you see the camera people will pan the crowd. Like just kind of showing their faces, and they're playing some music, and everybody sees their face on the big screen. So they're like, hey, it's me on the thing, blah, blah, blah. And they had so much fun. And to me, I felt like that was so cool and such an awesome experience. And at the very end of that particular video, you hear some people chanting my brother's name.
Amazing. Oh, that's
right
amazing.
At the end. That was really cool. Like,
Absolutely.
A lot of people in this town knew him and respected him.
You've carried on his legacy very well, Jeff. You very well. It's awesome. But yeah, the event was cool. Like just even like it's a cool venue because you these even like not being in the UFC and stuff, you get that arena feel. Coming out of the tunnel.
100%.
Those locker rooms, even the rooms you're getting ready in, are so legit.
Let's talk about the Cox warm-up areas. You remember those at the Cox Pavilion?
Oh,
the
yes.
one right next to it.
Yes.
We had to use like the basketball court, like the like, I don't know, training court downstairs. So they're like, oh my God, this freight elevator is so slow bringing the fighters up. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Bring 2 up at a time.
It's been a while since being a packed or Thomas and Mack. So, but other than that, what is your favorite venue that you've used here in Vegas so far?
Gosh,
would you say?
Good question. I'm really partial to the Sahara.
Okay.
I really love that place. It's cool, historic, awesome, like theater. It's the oldest historic theater still in Vegas. Like Dean Martin performed there or something like this.
Wow.
Whoever Blue Eyes is, who's that? Frank Sinatra?
I think so.
Or something like that. One of these guys, whatever, who the big time old guys were, but, and it's really small and intimate. I'm also partial to Thomas and Mack for a lot of the reasons we just talked about, of course.
Right.
But, it's hard to pick a favorite because each one has such awesome, like the Virgin Theater, such a cool, world-class, beautiful venue. Big and big time. Look, UFC, PFL are there.
Yeah.
And for Tuff-N-Uff to be in some of these venues. Similarly, the Pearl at the Palms, where our Las Vegas show was.
I love the Pearl. I think that was my favorite.
It's up there. It's one of my favorites too. Like I was saying earlier that, the Palms and the Yamava are your California to Vegas gambling connection. So our hope with the expansion in San Diego is we'll be your MMA connection between California and Vegas.
Yes. And like you said, Sahara has it's got history here, obviously. So the Palms kind of sits there for me too. It's got a lot of history in Vegas, It's been,
yeah. I went to so many UFCs there and I remember, gosh, at one time was Strike Force that I went to there.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and
cool.
Reed Harris was running it, founder of WEC, and I'm friends with Reed, so I texted him. I said, Reed, I need 2 really good seats, please. I'm trying to bring a date,
Okay.
And he put me in front of the front row.
Hey, good looking
so
out.
It felt like a real celebrity.
That was like backstage wingmanning.
Yeah, totally. He hooked it up. Thanks, Reed.
Yes. Okay, talking about, you having the UFC Fight Pass connection now. Tell me about your relationship with the UFC and UFC Fight Pass.
I'm very blessed to be close with them and very happy that I think they're happy, right? We are in their backyard, as I said, right? And so we're the local org that I feel as if they want, if they're not working and they want to have a fun night out, they come to our events. There's so many UFC employees just as fans at our events, right? And then seeing the Fight Pass team specifically at our events, they send their social media team to our events. They're collabing with our social media people live during our events and stuff like that. It's a real honor, and I'm so happy that I have a great rapport with those guys. I think it's important to note that there's a core group of those guys on the Fight Pass team that have been so good to me. I remember one of my first meetings over there. They went around the room and they introduced everybody. I'm this XYZ person. I do this. I've been here for this long. And then they got to me and asked me to tell my story.
Yeah.
And as we know, I sometimes choke up. I hate that I still do that, 11 years later. But I had started to choke up a little when I got to the part about talking about my brother. And in this room of UFC executives, you think this is like a, huge mammoth organization that deals with fighting. And so you might think a bunch of just really hard, businessmen and they all paused and they said, hey, don't worry, Jeff, we're here for you. And then when I got through it, and I'd finished with the Tuff-N-Uff story and introducing myself, they all started clapping. I couldn't believe it. They're such good dudes over there.
That's how you know you're in the right place.
And I think they're very passionate about the sport, obviously, if that's what they do for work every day, right? So to have those guys support, giving me advice and offering, suggestions along the way, I'm so proud of that relationship. And thanks for asking. I love those dudes.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. No, that's how you know you're in the right place. And I love that they see the vision and they support you the way they do, because it's about to take off,
So in San Diego, Steve Tecci, the director of Fight Pass and pay-per-view, came out there, and I remember, I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, but Steve, we didn't have a seat for you, and I was like scrambling to find a chair for you, and I put him right next to my brother's old boss. So he was kind of like a little bit close to the edge of the stage. So I was like, Steve, please don't go back even 1 inch. Do not move your chair back even 1 inch. But he was there. He came all the way to San Diego.
That tells you a lot.
That was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I keep saying that, you like it says so much when just these like full circle moments, things like that, and people showing up for you, but it says a lot on you and your character and Tuff-N-Uff and Tuff-N-Uff's character.
I mean, I'm just like, a regular dude, whatever, trying to do, like I said, what I think is right. But it's the fighters that help us shine. I mean, them out there, talking favorably about us, and then most importantly, performing at such a high level in the cage makes us look great. I don't really have to do much except for show up.
It all speaks for itself, honestly. It really does.
I wish I could sit and just watch more. I really miss sitting there. Like my brother always used to say, like, can you please be the buffer between like all the people coming at me? Because let's face it, people are always trying to talk to the promoter, blah, 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 blah. And so he was like, can you be the buffer between like them and me? So he would sit there every fight from the very beginning to the end and watch every fight. And it was kind of my job to like let him do that, and put out all the fires and run around and do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I hope to be able to get back to sitting there and being able to watch every fight. But, admittedly, like I said, in the world of events, stuff happens. And I'm going to get pulled over here and over there. And,
Oh, yeah. When I show up to the shows to work, I could tell you're like, you're all over the place, but you're handling business.
Trying to.
Yes, you're doing great.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the next show. We've got Tuff-N-Uff 145 going down June 29th. Sunday, International Fight Week.
Yes.
Which is a huge week for us.
It's exciting to be a part of Fight Week. We're actually on the last day, so we culminate Fight Week with Tuff-N-Uff at the Sahara.
Okay, Sahara this time. All right, you guys heard it. Sahara going down at the Sahara. Big week for the combat world, obviously.
Oh, my God.
But weekend especially, we got Power Slap 13 Friday, which I will be competing at.
Awesome. Sunday we'll have a nice crowd for the Fight Week attendees that are still left that maybe a little, after partying all weekend.
Exactly.
They still have some energy to come and hang out.
And I was talking to Justin. They said it might start early, like 11 a.m.
It is going to start. We're going to doors at 11, first fight at 12.
Why is that?
Well, because, first the thought was that if the fans that are in town for Fight Week are still going to maybe be in town and we'll have a flight later in that day. But then also, let's not forget, you got work Monday.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
So we were like kind of thinking, let's try it. If it's, Friday, you can't start early because obviously you got people at work. And, we generally wait till after work to try to start our shows on a Friday.
Yes.
But this one, we're like, let's give it a shot and see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And then, there's other things going on Friday, so it's best to give Tuff-N-Uff its own day, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, that's great. So does that mean that the weigh-ins are also going to take place early on Saturday?
Unfortunately, I think yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person.
Right,
I don't know. I'm not an early riser. I'm up until like 2, 3 in the morning sometimes looking at my screens, looking at all the numbers and the spreadsheets that try to track every single activity.
Yeah.
And as we grow, it gets, obviously more and more and more. But I find it a challenge to, as I said, kind of try to keep stuff together. I might not do the best job at it. But I try really hard to keep things organized.
Right. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about the card a little bit. We've got, our headliner is Diego Brandao and Cannon Kawahe. I'm so sorry if I slaughtered that, but he is my boy. Shout out to Cannon, Big, this is a featherweight title.
Incredible talent. Excited to see Diego come back and defend his title.
Yes.
And then we have actually on that card is Siraj, Jamie Siraj also, who's looking to come back all the way down from Canada to fight for us and hopefully get back to holding a belt.
Oh, he's coming back with a vengeance for sure. And then, being on the card with the person that, kind of took that away from him, that's so much energy is going to be at this fight. It makes me so excited. I can't even wait to talk to the fighters after the show or after their performances. But yeah, it's going to be awesome to see Diego Brandao. So Cannon actually fought on the card that Diego Brandao had won the title. So that was Tuff-N-Uff 143. And when I was talking to Cannon, he looked right at the camera and said, hello, I just won.
Right.
Give me my title shot. So it's really cool to see him getting that shot right now, against Diego Brandao. I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm excited.
There's a lot of fights on that card I'm excited for. Getting back to Jamie, I just want to mention congrats. Him and his wife just had a baby, and we sent him like a Tuff-N-Uff onesie for the little kid. So congratulations to you, sir.
Love it. And then we've got Kai Kamaka coming back as well. That's always amazing. Always great talent. Kind of usually a quick night for him because he's just so good.
He's awesome.
You just told me some news though that makes me really excited. Ray Cooper.
Yes, that fight got done today.
Let's go.
I can't believe a guy, like that. Kai Kamaka, both these guys, PFL vets.
Yeah.
It really makes me proud to see that these guys want to fight for us. And I can't wait. There's, even on the amateur side of this card, that David Scrappy Doo Goldenberg.
Super excited that he's going for the title.
I got to give this kid credit, so much props. Not only is he a great fighter, great dude, and just wonderful human, but like I told you off camera, that dude lent me $50,000 to keep Tuff-N-Uff going about a year ago. Yes.
Wow.
I mean, I couldn't even believe it, but
that's amazing.
You could imagine going through the, bumps and whatever, ups and downs of promoting. There was a time when I had to keep borrowing money, and I asked him, he said, let me think about it. And he said, yes. And so afterwards, I was like, I think I mentioned to you, telling him, thank you so much, dude. I can't believe you did that for me.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jeff, it was a business transaction. You paid me back. I made my interest.
Yes.
I'm happy with it.
There we go.
So I can't believe a guy like that helped save Tuff-N-Uff. So let me please give high praise. And I hope that, we see him in the professional ranks after he wins the title, and not to take sides or be partial in any way, but we really love that kid. Scrappy Doo. I
do love him too, and I'm a bit a fan, but now even more a fan just of him as a person. Now that's amazing that he did that. And again, I come back to this. It shows so much about I hope that people see we're all, it's Tuff-N-Uff. We're all just one family. It's all full circle. We all come back to, work for Tuff-N-Uff eventually when we're getting, and it's such an awesome opportunity. But you even got, these fighters who see so much in you, but that's because they feel it's the reciprocation, I don't think he would do that for some other, just regular promoter. It's because of the way you guys treat these fighters and the energy and the way you hold yourselves. So again, it's amazing.
Thanks, Destiny. I mean, let's just for a minute, please talk about this topic of it being a family. I get it. I feel that way too. It's all the same familiar faces. One name that I haven't spoken in over 10 years, I'll talk about today, which you probably remember, Carrie Hartney. Her and I haven't spoken in, like I said, 10 years probably, but she reached out to me on Instagram recently, just a couple days ago, and it was touching. She really loved my brother, and so she messaged me that she's got some stuff that belonged to Barry that she wants to get back to the family. Cool. And I was really pleased and felt some relief, if you will, because, without talking about too much drama and stuff, she's the cousin or niece of my brother's ex-girlfriend, who I still will not speak favorably about.
Fair enough.
But I'm encouraged and excited to reconnect with Carrie.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, it's still, this many years later, it is a family.
It is.
I think that the faces that you see at all of our events, I when I walk in and I see you and I see Justin and Tyone and Smith and all these people, I get a bit of a sense of relief because I know they know, you guys all know what you're doing, okay?
Yeah.
And B, that people in the know are there to take care of any problems that might come up if, say I'm out in the bathroom or something and God forbid happens, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really makes me feel like I know this event's going to be great because, we have the same people over, and it's a small family, but it's growing.
It is. It is a small family, but we are a family, and we've all just kind of came up together, and I remember the whole reporting gig was was just like kind of like a let's see how it goes, you know? So it was like an awesome opportunity, but I'm super grateful for it and grateful that you guys are, you know, liking it, and that I think it's bringing some good content to the show. So
yeah. You're all right. I remember when Justin told me about this, I was like, oh, great idea. I love it. Please, I love you. And I think you're obviously beautiful and such a great representation of our sport. Speaks so well. Thank you. Thanks for being a good brand ambassador for us.
Of course. It is literally my honor. Back to the card a little bit. I didn't want to talk. We talked about some of the people that are going to be competing, but we also have a hometown favorite, Juan Camilo.
Oh, yes. I love Juan Camilo. He's, I think, fought almost all of his MMA fights with us.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. And like, I think he went 10-0, 9-0, or 9-1, something like that, you know? And he was a champion. He defended that title.
And he's, I don't know if many people know this about him, but he's a gamer, like an, online gaming guy. And I'm a little bit of a geek. As I said, I love electronics and love talking to him about, like, when I was about ready to buy a gaming computer.
Yeah.
I was asking him everything, like, tell me about this i7 versus the i9 and the 4060 Ti. How is that better than the 4060? And he's like, just bring your computer here. When you get it, I'll dial it in for you. I love that kid. I'm so proud to see him coming back, and I can't wait to watch him fight.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Just again, another full circle moment. I can't wait, and I cannot wait to interview him after he gets the win.
Totally.
Awesome. Jeff, what is would be a piece of advice that you would give these young fighters that are trying to make it, not just in the cage, but in life? Because you've kind of been through it all, business, fighting, all of it. So what's some advice you'd give to somebody trying to come up?
Thanks for asking. And I think that our name is kind of synonymous with, you have to be tough enough in any facet of your life, not just fighting. I think it can, like, see this logo, everybody, like, it can apply to anyone that has overcome adversity in any area of life, right? So thanks for the question. I think that in a fighter's career, inside and out of the cage, they have to put in the work. They have to expect that there's going to be bumps in the road. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board. But as we know at the amateur ranks, anything that happens, a loss on your record, is nothing. It's just practice. And you go back to the drawing board and you come back, right?
Yep.
So I think that my advice would be hard work. And, be prepared for some challenges along the way. But what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
Absolutely. Great answer. And speaking about resilience, and you had talked about a little earlier, having to borrow money and things like that. So during these tough hardships and stuff, what's inspired you to keep going, Jeff, all these years, to keep it alive?
Thanks for asking. Of course, it's my brother.
Of course.
If I can talk just for a few minutes,
Please do.
About him. I used to be a commodity futures trader, the worst trader of all time, I think I call myself. I tried so hard, but I sucked at it. I never could make money, right? So one day I remember my last day trading, I sort of like transitioned from being on the floor, buy and sell, yelling and screaming traditionally, and started trading on an electronic system called Eurex. I had a terrible experience where the system locked up and I lost 44 grand in one day, which for me was like, almost wiped out my entire account, right? And so I called my brother. I needed to have more in the account to continue trading, right?
Was he like, excuse me?
He didn't flinch and wired me the money.
Amazing.
And I remember after, my dad told me, Jeff, please send it back to him, okay? He'll do anything to help you, but maybe trading's not for you. And I'm glad that he did that so I could get my brother paid back. And I went to try some other different jobs like Mortgage World. And like I said, I'm a geek, so I went to work for this really cool tech company called Print Incorporated. And then he actually ended up hiring me to be, one day he called me, he's like, Jeff, I'm thinking about hiring an assistant, in my office out here. And would you be interested in doing that? And, you know, the timing was perfect. I didn't know it. I was trying to find my way in life still. So that's when I moved to San Diego. And as I was telling you, his office overlooked the ocean in La Jolla. It's a fancy part of San Diego, right?
La Jolla.
Like where the seals are on that.
Yeah.
Right there, you could see it from our desk. Well, his desk. I was on the other side of a partition where I couldn't really see.
You just have to walk over there to enjoy the view.
I also had a laptop open with the webcam of the beach right there. So I could kind of see out there.
There you go.
I think the motivation to continue Tuff-N-Uff is my brother and to continue his legacy, you know.
Absolutely. And you've done so well, amazing at doing that. So I hope you hold yourself at a standard, because you have.
Thank you.
Of course. Now, before I let you go, Jeff, this has been an amazing interview, by the way. Thank you so much. Chopping it up with you has been awesome.
Thanks.
And it's been very comfortable. Like I just feel like I'm talking to a longtime friend.
Well, we have been friends.
We have been for a really long time, since I was young. My first time buying for you, I was 21 years old.
Oh my
God. I'm 30 now. So yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you for, you know, coming full circle to where you are today, and look at under these bright lights and in your podcast studio.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. For anyone watching who is dreaming about fighting in the Tuff-N-Uff cage one day, what would be your message to them?
Okay, so aside from moving all the way to Las Vegas like some of our fighters have done, you can please feel free to reach out to our team on our website. We have a want to fight area where you can type in, and then we'll get back to you. There's a lot of fighters asking to fight for Tuff-N-Uff, okay? So how do you stand out? I don't know, just be a good person, okay? You know, like, I'm not going to say go devote all your time to community service stuff, but that goes a long way in our book when, you know, we look at fighters, you know, if they're good kids, you know, again, I don't mean to call them kids, but if they're good people, and obviously we're looking for the top talent, okay?
Yep.
Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, that might not always be the best kids, you know, but like I remember at Thomas and Mack, we had a kid get bit in the cage. Do you remember that?
Oh, no. Yeah. I don't think I do. Wait,
I mean,
was it the arm?
No, it was right here on his chest.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah. The kid who did the biting has since, I think, reformed and apologized, and he's a really solid dude. But, you know, stuff like that shouldn't happen in the cage. But getting back to answer your question, Destiny, I would encourage fighters to find a really good gym. Find a coach, you know, that has experience, hopefully with some UFC fighters, and they're going to be able to tell you honestly, you know, like if you should be ready to fight or not. Because, look, let's face it, here in Vegas, we can go call any of the major gyms and say, give us a list of who's ready.
Yep.
And if the coaches are telling us they're ready, we trust them.
Right. Exactly. Beautiful. And there you have it, guys, from one of the OGs in this game. Thank you, Jeff Meyer and Barry Meyer, for the future stars of MMA.
Well, thank you for being a part of it and for having me today.
Thank you. This episode is brought to you by Foodie Fit. If you're looking for healthy meals without the hassle, let me put you on. Check out Foodie Fit. It is your local meal prep spot, serving up fresh, delicious food every day. That's right, y'all. They're open 7 days a week. I've been going there for about 6 years now, rocking with them. They've helped me throughout my entire career. So whether you swing in or order online, they'll have your meals ready to heat, eat, and love. You can use my discount code MyTimeOff. The O is a 0. That gives you 10% off in stores or online. And this is In the Corner with Destiny McCubbin. Real fighters, real stories, real talk. We'll see you next round.